is here, Saturday Sweep Series. Coming off another exciting, fun week in the markets. A lot to talk about. Earnings coming up. We'll talk about some of the action, which has been ridiculous out there. Some of the grandpa stocks. I had a tweet meaning somebody follows me on Twitter trolling me that I posted an IBM chart with a sweeper attached, and he called me grandpa for looking at IBM rather than Ripple. But yeah, we got the grandpa stocks that have been on fire. Boeing, FedEx, you name a Dow component, it's been on a tear. We'll talk a little bit about that. And what I think is most interesting going into earnings, I think these tech names right now, it's at a big spot here. We'll talk a little bit about that as we head into earnings season and go over some. We can spend this whole webinar on the action Friday. I kid you not. That's how ridiculous this action was on Friday. Just to give you an idea, like here on private Twitter here, I post like some of the top action on the bullish side. And, you know, you guys have seen this before. Sometimes we have a page, maybe it goes into two. And I had to leave some stuff out because it was a little overwhelming. You know, not everything is a terrific setup, obviously, but just a lot of big action out there. And a lot of action continues to come in names that, for me, you guys know, I find it so hard to build positions in up here. Like, we can trade, we're traders. I think that's what we forget sometimes. You know, every time you hear somebody talk about a bubble and these things are going to burst, and if you're a trader, you don't give a shit. Bubbles are the best thing since sliced bread. If you trade, you should love bubbles. Yeah, eventually they'll explode, but there's a lot of money to be made on the way up. All right, but you know, to a name like a Boeing, I keep going back to the Boeing, which has just been a rock star throughout this whole bull market. Okay, and then on this day into strength, Boeing never catches call sweeper activity. I just want to throw that out there. Hardly ever, even throughout this whole move, very little call sweeper activity. Okay, and then kind of caught us off guard on this day into some strength. Whoop, whoop, whoop. 3 call sweepers. And like, what the hell's going on here now? They're buying this thing up here? You know, they're looking to trade this thing up here? And make a long story short, it like opened the spigots because we happen to see a call sweeper literally almost every day last week. And this thing has been strong already, has, like I said, has been a rock star in this bull market. But just to get an idea of how they continue to come after these things, almost like, not that these things are overvalued or overowned, like they're underowned. When you see that type of activity come into these type of names, they're looking for exposure. You know, they're looking for bullish exposure because they don't have any. And yeah, you'll see some trades in weeklies and some front month. Those are just the pros looking to trade off the momentum. But then you see some real action up at levels that you never thought in your wildest dreams they would start buying it. And that means they're, again, underowned. We see names like FedEx, UPS just continues to catch action. That seems like it went up every single day for the past 2 weeks. You know, so this has been the talk of this market. There's no doubt about it. Okay, has been the older, the down names, the big blue chip names that you never thought could move like this are on fire. Okay, but again, the action's there, so you want to be involved in. Again, you just got to weigh risk reward wise, you know, what you're looking for. In other words, if you're looking to buy something and hold it for the next 6-7 months, you know, obviously up here, Boeing risk reward wise may not be for you. Okay, but if you're a trader and you're just looking to make money over the short term, and I think that's where the easy money's been made. Jim and I were talking about that before the webinar started, where You don't have to incur as much risk. You can get in something when action just starts to heat up and then sell it sometimes days, a week later, lock in that profit and move on, and literally not have 20, 25 different, exposed to 20, 25 different names. And then we get a drawdown in the market and you're caught. I like to call this keep the chains moving. You make some money in the Boeing, lock that up, look for another setup where action just starts to come in. You like it, fire at that one. Okay. And another great thing before we start getting into the action, that I think a lot of us, I'll admit myself, I've never not been a fan. I've always been a fan of it, but never really took advantage of, is buying protection. Okay. If you're uncomfortable, okay, it's almost a good thing if you're uncomfortable, because if you were comfortable buying up at these levels, then things are getting a little too frothy out there. But if you're uncomfortable and you feel like you're almost too long, put on some protection. It's dirt cheap. Now you can do it. You don't usually have that luxury. I think that's why this market just continues to steamroll higher. The institutions out there, the big guys out there, what do you think they're doing? They're throwing money at these names and buying some cheap protection. And they're not worried about a little drawdown here and there. They're worried about some flash crash, some big draw, some exogenous event that may happen and take things down a decent amount, and they want to be protected for that. But at the same time, they can throw money at these things because protection is so cheap, and that's been the theme of this market. You'll see guys on social media talking about some of the put buying out there. It's protection, guys. It's protection. That's all it is. Somebody goes in and buys a couple of tech names. They're going to buy some QQQ puts to, take off some of the heat. They get caught in the drawdown. And we spoke about this for a couple of weeks now. Don't look to make money off your protection. That's where I think a lot of retail traders fall into a trap. Okay. What happens is they put on some protection. The market may look a little shaky and they see that, their protection is green in their account and the other things aren't. So now they want to benefit off that drawdown if it happens. Okay. So they add too much protection where now it takes away from the long side. You should look at it, in my opinion, you want that protection to go to zero. You want it to go to zero. It's insurance. Okay. Just again, to take away from the sting if you do get caught. All right. And the last thing I just want to mention before we get into the action, because that's what we most care about. Don't be scared of a loser. Don't be scared of getting caught. It's part of the game. Okay? If you were scared of this market rolling over, you would have missed out on one of the biggest opportunities we'll probably see in our generation of trading. I mean, this has been an incredible bull market. You've more than likely throughout this bull market have made some money, have made some decent money. Some of you have been killing it. Why are you worried about giving some of it back? You shouldn't be. Okay, that's part of the game. You're always going to give some back at the end. You're never going to pull the plug on being bullish at the tippy top and avoid getting caught. So just drill that into your head right now. It's not going to happen. You see how we watch the wise guy activity out there? You see how they play? What do? You see how they roll up, roll out, roll up, roll out? They continuously do that, knowing that their last batch of rolling up and out is going to go out south. Their last batch of roll-ups are going to go to zero. And they're okay with that because it allows them to ride a trend like this. So basically, they make money on this position, they roll it up out, they make money again, they make money again, they make money again, right? They're taking profits along the way. And then here, whatever they have left in there, they get caught on. But net, they made a good amount of money on the whole trend. So that's not an easy thing for us to do because you need a good amount of bullets to do that. You could do that with some individual positions that you like a lot if you want to catch a big move. But I think it's the same philosophy that if you're swing trading, it's that you need to apply. Don't be scared. If you're scared of getting caught, size down. I know a lot of people out there are like, if I size down, they say, well, yeah, it's worth it because you're going to continue to make money on the way up. And when you finally get caught, it's, you know what I mean? All you're doing is giving back a portion of your profits. All right. So that, in my opinion, is the outlook we all should have as traders, and forget, oh, it's a bubble. It's this. People are too bullish out there. I'm a big sentiment guy. You guys know that. Okay. I come from an era in the 90s. Okay. I'm not talking about the bubble bursting in 2000. I'm talking about a bull market in the 90s. There was bullish sentiment throughout that whole move. When you're in a bull market and the market goes higher, there's bullish sentiment out there. It doesn't mean it's exuberant, Bitcoinish. I just created my own term. You know what I mean? People feel bullish. It's a bull market. It's totally normal. It's at huge extremes where things become a little frothy and are due for maybe a pause or a pullback. All right. So I'm seeing it still on the professional side, like everything we see on the professional side. Yeah, they're bullish. Advisors, managers, the majority of them are bullish. But as far as the retail crowd, I don't see the irrational exuberance that was there in 99, 2000, where people were buying e-toys with no fundamentals and tripping over themselves. They never wanted to sell those things, just like Bitcoin. They never wanted to sell them. They wanted to leave it in their account, up, down, sideways, crooked. I'm going to ride this thing down to zero if I have to, because this is going to get me rich. That was the philosophy then. Now you got real companies, real earnings, and people can't wait to run out the door because they're worried about a crash or a correction. So it's a lot different. All right. And again, I'm not saying that there won't be a market pullback or some consolidation. I'm sure there will be. But don't try to predict that crash stuff. It's only noise that gets in the way. You keep chopping away, you keep the chains moving, you see a setup for me, or some of you guys in the room, you see a setup with some flow you like, you take a position, you feel too long, add some protection, do something about it. But don't try to predict when this thing's going to come to an end, because, again, you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunity. And look at all the guys who are shorting out there. You know what I mean? I'm talking about well-known people out there who are calling tops, shorting the market. They're getting steamrolled. Steamrolled. I'm not going to mention any names on here. You guys know who probably I'm talking about. There's a decent amount of them. You're calling the death and the end of this bull market forever now. How do they have money left is beyond my imagination. I have no idea. It's a losing proposition. All I know is when you see a bull market like this, every short will be wiped out and disappear when it's all said and done. Every single one. If there are people you still know out there that are shorting and trying to catch this top, we still got room to the upside, because they will be extinct when this thing finally crumbles. All right, so let's get to some of the Friday action. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the names that may still be set up, some of the things that we can keep an eye on into earnings, because, again, we have earnings here, always tricky. Me personally, I'm a fan of playing the run-up into earnings. If you like the name, maybe leaving a piece. Maybe you made enough money, kind of like a free ride into the quarter, that sort of thing. But earnings can always get tricky, but tech sets up nicely. We'll talk about that. All right, so here's what we had Friday, some really interesting stuff. Yelp, I happened to throw on here just because it was a continuation from Thursday. The real buying, the real sweeper activity stemmed up Thursday afternoon. There was some good-looking sweeper activity, and Yelp wasn't at a bad spot. Like, I got the Boeing and the S&P chart in comparison. Here's where Yelp was. Hold on, I gotta minimize this because I can't see it. Your questions here are a little in the way. Hold on. I'll just move it over. All right, so basically here was Yelp when it caught that activity. Not a bad spot, right? This thing's not running away, as opposed to like a Boeing. Two different things. So you had Yelp with some good looking sweeper activity come in here. Finish green, nice little day, still a lot of consolidation. You guys know I like that. Opened up, green with the market, nothing huge. I think it was up 30 cents. They came after it again. This was some of the action. Jan 45, some weeklies, some Febs. I just threw a couple of random up there. And lo and behold, they catch chatter. Okay, which usually happens in a name like Yelp or Faye and all these stuff. These things love the rumors. And that's where flow can be an asset, because a lot of times they'll get in and there's something usually coming when you see that type of buying start to heat up. So you had an opportunity buying it the day before, the morning, where it caught that action. A lot of us did for the day trade and exploded to the upside off the chatter. Here's the intraday, and pretty obvious where it caught it, to the left of the screen right over here. Okay, so you can see this thing heat up, and that's a nice trade, and then sideways for the rest of the day, but held on to some decent gains. All right, so that was Yelp. Avgo, this is a June bet. They don't have earnings. I think they're one of the last to report. A name to keep an eye on, I think, because if you remember tech in general, a good chunk of it, especially in like semi-land, has been underperforming. The best of the flow and performance, in my opinion, has been outside of the semis. You have a handful that have been, explosive, but overall, I think, a lot of the semis and tech have been underperforming overall. So you have Avgo here, again, no major rally, sort of stuck in consolidation again. And, you may see a bump into the quarter. So something to keep an eye on, I think, flow-wise. This was just a June bet, not a bad-looking bet. But I think this is something that just to get our eyeballs on the name if we were looking at it, maybe for a play on the run-up into the number type thing. All right. And you probably have a little bit of time. You may be able to see a couple of tech earnings before you can jump into something like this, maybe. But again, something to keep an eye on more than anything else. PVG, I don't know much about the name. I know it's a minor, but they were buying the shit, excuse my French, at a June calls Friday. It says basic materials here. Is this a gold miner? Any of you guys know this name? PVG? I thought it was a gold miner initially. No? Nobody knows this guy? So here's the setup in PVG on a daily. So not bad. And these are just a couple of the orders there. Here's the action with some time behind it. June 11th, they're laying some decent wood. Sweep. It was, all kidding aside, I think throughout the course of the day, they were accumulating this PVG. So that type of action, no matter how shitty the name may be, I'm cursing a lot this morning. I apologize ahead of time, but that's the Brooklyn to me. There's nothing I can do. When you see this type of buying, you always have to take notice. Always. Because a good lesson out of this market, even for myself, names that you thought weren't even worth looking at because they don't really move enough, that has been the total opposite out there, right? We've been talking about that. FCX, name that nobody wanted to touch because just hardly moved, exploded. Just one example. So you got this PVG here. Somebody saying Metals Minerals Company. Looks like a mining company based in Canada. Yeah, I thought it was a gold miner. I thought it was, but I see materials and stuff. I don't know. So take a peek. Anybody finds anything interesting on the name, hit me up on Twitter if you're a member in the room, because the action is worth taking a peek. All right. PVG. Here's a bet I threw on here, and here's what I don't like about Facebook, and then we could talk about the action overall. Here you had a Facebook sweep. Can you guys see the bottom of that? I can't really see the bottom. Oh, there we go. Hold on. There we go. You see it on the bottom of the screen there? So basically somebody swept February 2nd, 182 and a halves, laid some decent wood. If this came on a normal day in Facebook, it would be somewhat noteworthy, right? Facebook could catch big action anyway. But Facebook was under a lot of pressure, and there was news, obviously, and a lot of flow there. Okay. So the reason that becomes a problem is that we don't know where this buyer comes from. In other words, could it be somebody rolling a position? You know what I mean? There was so much action there on Friday that it was so messy. And that's what usually happens on a day, especially a well-known name has a day like this. The flow's not clean enough to know or feel confident that it's somebody making a bullish bet. Okay. And even if it is, with this type of selling pressure, you have some sellers there. So it not that easy of a trade. All right. I will say this, it had a decent reaction. I'll show you guys here. A couple people traded it, made a little money on Friday. Where was it? It was over here for a quick trade. Here. I think this was right around here. So it quartered out of this consolidation, and then you had this rip here. Let me make sure, just so I'm not lying to you guys. 1241. Yep. Okay, so finally consolidated here after some weakness, and then you had a quick rip here that you could have traded if you were looking at day trade, but then obviously selling took over again and went south. Me personally, I'm not interested. You know what I mean? Again, Facebook always catches a lot of action. I want to see the flow go dead, and then I want to see a couple sweeps like that clean, and then I become interested. Right now, there's a lot easier stuff out there, But I know a lot of you guys were asking me about Facebook and are interested in Facebook, so I threw that on there. I started from the last one. Let's go to the next one. SRPT, what a beauty. Let me tell you something. Some stocks just are, wise guys, they love them, and they're just money. They're money. You got to be careful sometimes when you're playing 9, 10 sweepers deep, because that's what happened. They love these names that they tattoo them. You don't want to hop on the last sweep after a rally, okay? But SRPT, as most of you are aware, because I don't blame you, you like trading the stock, there was a put seller, and a decent looking one, if you guys remember. What was that, here? Or here? Wherever there was. A couple of days ago, there was a put seller, then a call sweeper followed. A lot of us traded the name, day traded it, make money. A couple of people took it for a swing trade and, made money there. And then Friday, they just come after it again. They come after it again. Made 70 calls, lay some decent wood, 400 grand. Here's another bet, March 70 calls, opening activity. Then sweepers, there were a couple of sweepers there, April 70s. And you see the $70 number there, $10 out of the money. A lot of people were saying, I don't know, maybe they're playing buyout. There's some time there, though. There was some time on those bets. But again, SRPT, just money. If you ever can catch SRPT out of weakness or consolidation, your odds go up drastically. You just got to be careful chasing up here now. For example, if it catches action again Tuesday, Monday we're off, obviously. Tuesday, the stock is green. Just be careful chasing over there. All right. You can't just throw darts anywhere. But, coming out of some weakness or consolidation, this name is always money. Always. And there's been sweeper activity, as most of you who have followed me know, throughout this whole move. I don't know if you're out there, Ani, but Ani loves this stock. He's a member. And, every time she catches a sweep off a pullback or some breather, he just pounces on it. Yeah, this thing has just been, and again, I'm not a biotech guy. I don't know the reasons for it. I know a lot of you guys like the stock, but it just has been incredible. And by the way, I want to talk about another bio, okay, which caught a sweeper, and all kidding aside, was the best looking sweeper out of all these biotech names. But for some reason, I'm not going to say all of you, but members included, I guess maybe you're not familiar with the name, weren't too excited over it. But I'm telling you, it was the best looking sweep of the bunch and exploded. This Agio. Incredible move. We'll go look at that action, that sweep, and I'll share with you why I liked it. All right, here's another one. Interesting name. I day traded this on Friday. BIV. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is a spinoff from BIIB, right? Was a spinoff. Here you got a pretty decent size wise guy put seller. He sells the Feb 55s, takes in 37 cents, opening activity, and there was some small call sweeper activity around it. Now, for me, the put seller alone in a name like this was worth a day trade because I felt it would create some juice, some excitement, some momentum. But this is a name to watch, I think, from this point on anyway. Never catches size sweeps, so they're kind of under the radar. Any sweeper activity is notable and can get and create a nice reaction. This thing exploded, sold off later in the day, but exploded off the action here. You can see here. So I think it was up. What was the high on this thing? It was up like $1.80 at one time. I think it closed up $1.30. So BIIV should be a decent floor in there with the put seller. He's a little out of the money, but it's a little different with these smaller type names. But any more, if this is the start of action coming in, this thing could get, can get crazy. So again, we don't know if they're going to come in with more. Had a nice move already, but something to keep an eye on if there's some consolidation here, without a doubt. If there's a little breather here, keep an eye on it and be ready if there's some action. What else we got? CVE. That's another thing we started seeing. The lower tier energy names flow really starting to spill into those names. By the way, how about energy? How about the moves in some of these things? Remember the good old slob, Schlumberger? The biggest piece of garbage on the face of the earth? Look at this thing. This thing was stuck down here, okay? Even with the action, we were like, oh, this is a tough own. Even with the impressive activity coming into this name, you still didn't feel good about owning this name. But every single time this thing got to the bottom of this range, they would come in and sweep March, April calls. Okay? And then at the tail end of this, they started coming in, meaning closer in as far as dates are concerned on the strikes. So like Jans and Febs. Then 1 week we saw weeklies, and that was it. Once they started hitting up the weeklies, this thing was gone, and she hasn't looked back. She's still seeing bullish flow. It's a little out of control now up here, but this is this is what you get when they nail it. In other words, Sometimes you'll have just a trade down here, okay? And where they come in, they buy the bottom of the range, you get a trade, and then they roll over, okay? But when they come back and they catch it and the flow explodes, this is what happens. This is what happens. And for me, unless you happen to get lucky on the timing, unless you pay for time, it's not that easy to catch unless you're fortunate. You just happen to play it at the right time. Like a lot of people were asking me about the GBT, the only reason I caught this move is because I had March calls. You know what I mean? I had March calls. The only reason I stuck through this, where a lot of people got shaken out, was one, I traded the common on the first run up, so made some money. So I felt like I kind of had a free ride type of thing. But what I was holding was March calls. Otherwise, obviously, you poop your bloomers when you see this type of action. All right, so a lot of players out there, especially on the retail end, they shy away from bets with time behind them. I'm not saying you should buy time on everything. If you're in something for a quick trade, you don't want to pay for time. You're in it for a quick move, okay? But if you're trying to catch the move, it only helps if you have time on your side. All right, so we're starting to see some of the smaller, we've been seeing some of the lower tier energy names start to catch some interesting action, meaning like leaps and further out stuff. All right, and I guess it makes sense, right? These things have been battered to crap. And if oil, even if it does pull back, if oil is in a whole new bull market per se, with time, you can hit a home run in these things. You can hit a home run. So CVE, one of those candidates, was seeing leap activity prior, and caught another interesting one right here. Jan 2019, so a year out, $15 calls, 80 cents, opening bet. Even looked like some repeat put selling. They were selling some puts on Thursday as well. So should create some nice support around here. And, interesting action there. We've been seeing it a lot. We've been seeing it in MRO. Even, the PXD was one of the first to get some leap sweeper activity. But a lot of energy names we've been seeing it with. And listen, they're due, especially the bigger ones, they're due for a breather. Okay. But that's where you should start looking, especially some of this leap activity further out in the year activity. That's where you should start looking at these things. So CVE, one of those names. If you want, we can go through a couple of them to keep an eye on. If you guys have any, you can mention to me after we're done with this. Viacom, this was a good looking bet initially, but now we know what they were playing there. That news. This came in. There was some smaller Viacom sweepers, and then this guy hit right around, here you go. What was that? 340? Oops. What did I do? There it is. Yeah, 1540. Okay, so he was buying Fed 35 calls to open. Again, little sweepers prior to that, and then caught the news of the possible CBS merger. I think they shot that down aftermarket, and the stock came in a little bit, but still exploded. You can see here. So 1540. Yep, right here. That's where the action came in. And poop. And these names, guys, have been littered with action. You guys know it. My favorite one is that Comcast, which started off with leaps, guys. Started off with leaps, if you remember. You remember, we were talking about that down here, remember? They started buying leaps. The stock was still bleeding and trying to find a bottom. They just kept coming and coming and coming. And then what they do? Then they started to come closer in. March calls, then Feb calls, then Jan, the month we're in right now. Then you get this move. And the flow's still explosive. A lot of the Jan stuff rolling out, but still some good looking order flow in this. Comcast probably has higher to go. And look at this chart now. Look how ugly this looked when they started buying it. Look where she is now. And this didn't take much time at all. You know, some take longer than that. This didn't take much time. They're going for the break now. Incredible. Incredible. What else we got? So, yeah, that was the Viacom action. So that's kind of spilled milk now after that move. All right, we're down here. CVX. I was trying to see if they were rolling. It didn't look like this order rolled. It looked like there were other orders there that rolled. Another energy name just catching big action. CVX, you know, catching the order up here. Explosive. Explosive. Let's see. They bought, these were June 145s. Non-sweeper was a block, $751,000 bet there. All right. Let's go to the next list. A lot of action. Again, I left a lot off. If you guys know any names that you may be interested, you can throw them at me after this. CY. That's Cypress Semi. This is another semi name, lower tier semi name, littered with action as far as I can remember. There was a little bit of a breather in action, probably over the last month or so. And you can see it has come down, consolidated, now looking for new highs again. Cypress Semi. Strong as hell. Here's the weekly, little longer term look. All-time highs possible. Slower mover, though. I definitely want to throw that out there. It's a creeper. Well, it's been a creeper. We can start talking like that because this market, a lot of things change. All right. And the action there, pretty decent size. 5,000 contract block. March 17 calls, opening bet, $500,000 bet. At the least, this is set up nicely anyway, but at the least, let's say Tuesday we come in and I don't know, maybe the market's red for a day, right? The morning is red or something to that effect. You know, maybe you see some sweepers come in there and that's where you want, you know, look to pull the trigger or, you know, maybe it's later in the week, whatever the case may be. That's all a preference thing, you know? For me, depending on the action, if the action is sharp as hell, I'm looking to fire. I'm not looking to play games, actually looking to add if it comes in, that type of thing. But if it's, you know, action like this and you're not crazy about the name yet, you could just, again, these names you keep on a watch list and watch and see if they come back again. If they do, and this thing is still around here, creates even a stronger signal. All right, so that's CY. Here's another beauty in the energy sector. Probably my favorite action sweeper activity out of all the energy names. Schlumberger is closed, though. Schlumberger is closed. But CRC, this was the cleanest. So a sweeper activity out of here. So you had huge downtrend, right? Trying to make that U-turn. Little shakeout here, and then I think it was right over here. Caught the best looking sweeper I've seen in the name. Stock exploded, bink, bink, bink. Consolidation, more buying. Run up. Consolidation, more buying. More buying, and she's gone. And those are highs to look at here, if you're wondering. Tough here, though. Tough here. You got most of you know this is a name we've been looking at for a while, but has on any pullbacks a name you have to keep an eye on based on the flow that's come in. Lows. Did you guys see this? Now this was interesting because there were some smaller sweeps, but I'm not going to be one of these flow guys that tells you, oh yeah, there was a small sweep in weeklies. There was some smaller flow in lows prior. but look normal to me. Okay, Lowe's has been seeing bull flow for quite a while now. This is one that caught my eye. This is one that I shared with members. July 97 and a halves, opening sweep, decent looking sweep there. Okay, nice wood. I did it again. Swept multiple exchanges to get it. You can see here Jan 26 100 calls as well. But this one, this July bet was significant because came in before the news. Before news of an activist getting involved. And as a lot of you are aware, Lowe's, the action there has been insane. Insane. Absolutely insane. Even a lot of blocks that a good chunk of them were tied to stock. But aside from that, just a ton of flow in Lowe's. Ton of flow. So that bet, the July bet was at 14.29 was the time of that bet. Yeah, I said right here. And then caught the news. And then, which is usually a good sign, was catching sweeper activity into this. Yeah, I use that a lot of times as an indicator. It's pretty accurate. Sometimes I guess I'll fail. But if there's news, chatter, rumor, if they're sweeping post chatter, in other words, you see some sweeper activity, then it catches this on some chatter, but sweepers continue to come into it after the chatter, usually a good sign that it'll hold gains and push from there. And we saw that in Lowe's. KBE, these bank ETFs, they catch monster orders constantly. If you remember, we were talking about that KRE, which caught significant action. That's last year now, before the banks got hot. This is KBE. 2019, $46 calls. Look at the size here, $2 million. Now, KBE is not regionals, right? What was that? KBE. KBE is what, guys? What's that a play on? You guys know? It says Spider KBW Bank ETF. This is not regionals, though, right? KRE is the regional one. Yeah, regional. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to find out what the hell's in this ETF. We got to dig that up. But you can see red hot. Red hot. So big action there. PSX, another energy play on fire. This was one of the names they hit up back in the summer. They were buying Jan calls in huge size back in the summer. So think about it. We were in like June, I think it was. June, July. Yeah, probably around here. And they were buying Jan calls with a lot of time behind them. Huge size. And, look where she is now. And it looked so difficult back then. It's probably in the search. I'm just curious. Some of you probably couldn't give a rat's ass right now, but I'm just curious here. PSX. Here we go. Okay, this is May. They were playing August, June, November. Maybe I'm thinking this, Jan and April. Could be. But some big action there. And this, just on Friday, where'd I go now? I lose myself. Friday, you had a sweeper here of the February 23rd, 105 calls, 215. She opens, $140,000 bet. But again, up here, probably best bet, wait for a little bit of a breather unless you're looking to flip it type thing. HDP. Pretty noteworthy activity on Friday. HDP, Hortonworks, software infrastructure. They bought May 25 calls, big block here, call it almost 5,000. And there was a small sweeper around that. Yeah, here. He came in first. And we've been seeing a lot of this. We've been talking about in the room. Small sweepers, front running, some big size blocks. You can see it there on the bottom of the screen. May 25 calls, he pays $1.55, that sweeper, right? See him? And then the big block follows. He's got to pay 10 cents higher. We've been seeing a lot of that. Tell me how that's legal. Tell me how that's legal. Please, somebody tell me. Maria saying KBE Top Holdings, Voya, Tree, Citizens. Oh, so that's interesting. Voya, Tree, Citizens, Regions, BBT, Bank of America, PNC. Interesting. Yep. Thank you, Maria. Interesting. That's that KBE, if you were wondering. Bank of America, more flow on Friday. Yeah, that's been an animal. Wells Fargo, yeah, down 46 cents. You would think they bring it in a little bit more, but it's just too much demand. Yeah, too much demand. Any little weakness, these guys want to own these things. Any little weakness. Maria's mentioning Costco. Boy, I'll be honest with you, Maria. We botched that whole thing. What happened was it caught, if Maria is probably referring to the weekly action. Costco, and this has been a common thing in Costco of late, catches some strange, unusual sweeper in weeklies, and they've been ridiculous in it. Okay. Stock explodes. Okay. Literally right off the sweep. And there's more action coming in. So, we're uncomfortable chasing the thing because it had a big pop off a tiny weekly sweep. And then all of a sudden the flow exploded. What was it? The Walmart, Sam's store chatter out there that was going on. What a home run in those weeklies. Look at this. So it caught the weeklies off this and exploded. And what we were pissed off about was the spot. Because, if you're buying Costco up here, you hesitate a little bit off a nice little pull. And right here, stock wasn't up that much at the time. That's where the sweepers came in. So you had just a perfect spot for a trade. And a lot of us never even pulled the trigger. Some I give credit, did and flipped it when they were even more sick because they sold it and the thing exploded. So, but that's part of the game, especially on the long side now. You're going to talk to yourself selling some of these things early. There's nothing you can do about it. All right, so that's the action. Like I said, there's a ton of more action out there Friday, the rest of the week. There's too much to go over. If you guys have any names, shoot them at me now, and we could go over them. Pete is saying, hello, Sam. One thing, Pete, I am not saying Lucci. This is Wall Street Jesus you're talking to. We're two different people. People think we're the same person. We couldn't be two opposites, but they think we're the same person. No, but what was your question anyhow? It's funny that, Pete, I'm not busting your chops. It's funny that quite a few people have done that of late. But that's okay. That's all right. What do we got here? What are you saying? Saying I'm on vacation. Think of joining a group when I get back. I was wondering your thoughts on Micron since the MS downgraded the semis. Yeah, Pete's asking about Micron. The semis, some of the semis have been underperforming. Okay, and for good reason. I mean, Micron was up a gazillion % last year. All right, I don't think Micron's a disaster. You can see Micron's just consolidating. You probably can find trades in the interim, but there's just other things in play right now. There are other things that are hot right now, and that's how the market works. Not the same names aren't always breaking highs each day in, day out. The normal thing is you get a move like this and you get some consolidation. Otherwise, Micron would be at $300 in 6 months. All right, so it's a good thing that it's consolidating. But for me now, like Micron is so long in the tooth in action that you really need it to go dead for a bit and then that action come out and punch you in the face. Like for me right now, Micron, I need to see missiles, plural, and then I could get excited about it again. You know, because right now Micron's just catching normal flow. Yeah, there's some coal buying. You know what I mean? But it's back to normal again, where the best of action has been elsewhere. So I think it's smart to keep an eye on Micron now, but I wouldn't put all my focus there because you're missing out on a whole universe of stocks out there that are flying out of consolidation. Flying. So that's my thoughts. Again, I'm going off flow, right? That's what I'm going off of. What do we got here? Apple action. Not sure you went over it already. I didn't go over Apple. Apple had some weekly and Jan activity on Thursday morning. Friday, there wasn't much of anything aggressive. Thursday morning, there was some decent action. You know, decent, nothing special. Had a nice day Friday. But that's the extent of it. You know, you're going to have earnings and all that jazz coming up. So you could probably, you know, on breathers get a trade in between if they push it into earnings. But again, the best of the flow has been elsewhere. You know, I look at it as just trades. You know, just trades in these things for now. Ani saying GDX, nice mover Friday. Yeah, GDX. If you remember, we were talking about it the last webinar. That GDX caught some nice flow. Newmont is my favorite in the group, if you're wondering. Caught the best sweep, best looking sweep. And the only question is, can the miners rally with the market? The answer looks like yes, right? It was the last time we saw that was in 2016. Maybe that's going to be the trend for the foreseeable future here. The only thing I dislike about the miners is that usually it's a play against the market with gold. But if you feel that the miners can rally with the market, and you know the miners have been hot outside of the gold miners, just in general, copper and shit like that. Yeah, and Newmont has had a nice little push here. I don't know if you guys seen on Twitter. If you're members, you know what I'm talking about. But I posted that order on Twitter. It was a good-looking order Newmont caught. So other than that, we've seen some action, ABX, some of the smaller ones, but Newmont, much the best. Let's get to a couple more names here. Let me scroll down so I don't skip over people. Ari caught some decent action, biotech. You're calling it a piker. I don't know why, but Ari caught action to this day. Had a half decent push off the action, some follow through there. Maybe you're looking for the stock to go parabolic in a day. I don't know, but Ari looked pretty good to me. What else we got? CLVS caught some block activity, I think, right? Is this chart right here? Why is it all the way to the end? Hold on. Let me see if I can fix this a second. God dang it. What is this? It's annoying the daylights out of me. How do I push this over? It's right. All right. CLVS caught some block activity. Nothing on the sweeper end yet. Some decent size blocks. I don't know if they got anything pending as far as data or anything. Look at the size of these blocks. This one, oh, this is December. Here's March. So this one's probably still open. I don't know if this rolled into that. But some decent size. No sweeper activity, though, yet. I'm a fan of sweepers. You know, blocks, for those of you who are new, the reason why blocks get tricky around this time of year with earnings and biotech, you know, there's no way of knowing, but if you have data pending, could be stock replacement. A lot of times in earnings, let's say I'm a fund, right? A hedge fund. I own, I don't know, 100,000 shares of XYZ and they report in a week. Okay. I want to still have some exposure to the name, but less principal at risk. What I'll do is I'll sell the equity and replace it with a block of calls. So it's not really bullish. Some people could make the argument it's bullish. It's not aggressive. Okay. And that's the difference. I get lumped into the category of unusual activity, size block activity. That's not me, guys. That's not me. I know maybe if you're just finding out about me or whatever the case, maybe you haven't heard me say it before. I'm not day in, day out, I'm not staring at flow for that. All right. You don't need to stare at flow for that. You can set a screen and you'll find all those big blocks. Very easy. A lot of eyeballs on it. I'm looking for under the radar accumulation, a type of buying that I know is aggressive, confident behavior in the options market. That's what I'm looking for. So again, that's why you see me sometimes talk about sweeps that you're probably scratching your head. What's so wonderful about that, right? A 200 lot. What is he talking about? But that's what I'm looking for. So I think I get lumped in with the unusual activity crowd and the big bet crowd. Blocks don't get me excited. Okay, so just so if you're wondering, you may have heard somebody on Twitter or anywhere talk about some big time buying in the name, and maybe I didn't mention it or maybe I didn't seem excited about it. More than not is because it just wasn't my type of activity. Okay, and from my experience, again, the type of activity that I'm looking for has treated me well over the years. I've been in this game a long time. I've seen almost everything out there. So, I found a little niche that has made me money that I'm confident in, and that's what I stick to. Not saying that anything else you're seeing out there is wrong, but it's not me. So if somebody else is talking about a big block, you would have to hit them up on it. So again, I like to see sweeper activity, especially in biotechs. We've seen blocks pan out. Sage, one in particular. There was a monster block there. Okay. And again, I wasn't as excited as maybe some others were on it. The stock blew up. Okay. So CLVS here, a couple big blocks, no sweeper activity yet. And we'll see. I don't know if they have any data reporting. Looks like it's a little bit weak, but not that it matters in these biotechs if they catch news. So that's what I would be looking for. Whoever asked that question, George or whoever it was. CLVS sweeper activity. Now that there's been some big blocks, I would look for sweepers to confirm that block. Ethan, do you know those GBT March calls have been taking profit and roll out further? Do you think GBT has further upside? Ethan, I wish I knew the answer to that question. They haven't rolled. They have been selling puts primarily. I still have my March calls. I don't know what the hell I'm waiting for. But disclaimer, I had equity too, stock that I locked in profit on. So I don't want to give the impression that I didn't sell anything, and give you the wrong impression. So just to be honest, I had stock. I locked that in. The March calls I still have, I've given a lot more leash to, and so far has panned out nicely. All right. But there's been put selling pretty much is the noteworthy activity that's been in the GBT. And yeah, I mean, can it go higher? Why can't it? I mean, this thing has exploded. I'm sure there'll be some pauses along the way. But broke out, looks incredible. So listen, you don't want to lose this profit, right? You don't want to lose this, so you got to keep a close eye on it. At some point, I'm going to look to lock at least a good chunk of it in on those March calls. I'm not looking to hold them to expiration. Um, Maria saying PVG is an engagement development of precious metals. Yeah, so it probably is a gold silver miner, like I was thinking. Probably. Let me scroll here, get some other ones. Tom is saying GLW any activity. Yeah, GLW has had activity. Let me get the list. You know where my best bet is, so I get the GLW had a decent looking order recently. Oh, hold on. GLW. Here we go. That's not it. How come it's not coming up now? Let me see. Can I find it on the Wall Street? Actually, I tell you, Twitter can drive you nuts. GLW. This was the last one. I don't know if this date's right though. Could be. But this was the last block there. There were a couple sweepers in GLW. I'll have to dig them up for you. But GLW, yes, has had activity, decent looking flow. And yeah, another name, by the way, that you usually ignore because the stock doesn't move. And look at it. Some of that action again caught me off guard initially because, this is what I'm used to in GLW. Sideways grind with a little upward tilt to it, but she's starting to get loose. She's starting to get loose. So the answer to your question, Tom, is yes, there's been some decent flow in GLW. What else? Let's see. Qualcomm has had flow, nothing spectacular. It was really hot, the Qualcomm flow into this. And, now we're just seeing just normal call activity, nothing that'll knock you out of your chair or tell you that get ready, Qualcomm's ready to make a move type thing. Some long consolidation. There's news around the name, obviously. But I haven't seen anything jaw-dropping of recent in Qualcomm. What's up, Tomer? VRX. Tomer, the flow there has been ridiculous. Constant buying, always active call side. There's been put selling. There's been leap buying. The only thing that I have to add is it's been going on for a bit, as you probably know, Tomer. But just ridiculous. Yeah, Teva, just as much, if not more. Teva has been insane. So, that's the only thing I would probably throw into it. The flow's been ridiculous, a little long in the tooth flow-wise. VRX has been a dog forever. So it's hard for me to say, the upside from here is limited. I'm sure there's more upside if they continue to buy this thing. I'm just not as comfortable up here, as I was earlier in the trend. Maybe off some consolidation or pullback or something like that. But the flow Tomer has been exceptional. That and Teva. Igor saying MGM, LVS, and Win. Win, not, believe it or not, Win's the one that usually catches the activity, right? Win, small nibbles. LVS and MGM have seen action. LVS, it's MGM probably the better size. LVS caught a couple of sweepers, big size block Thursday. So LVS and MGM, the better action of the two that had the better action of the three. All right, Win usually is the one that always catches the sweepers, the good-looking ones. Nothing yet. Maybe still to come. This whole trip on any little dip, there's been call sweeper activity. legitimate call sweeper activity. Hasn't shown up yet. All right, so something to keep an eye out for. Maybe this is the time it doesn't catch it and rallies to new highs. But LVS and MGM did see activity. By the way, the one, it's been a little quiet of late, but this has been the best casino flow-wise. Wise guy activity-wise, it's not even close. This Boyd Gaming, by far the best. Yeah, and this has rallied significantly. But aggressive buying in that name. IGT, Jim is talking. I like IGT. I like IGT here. Caught some sweeper activity here. Has been sort of quiet here. Flow has dried up. I think it's second round of sweepers away from boop. So I like IGT here. The other one looks great too. I'm in Leaps, SGMS. I've been sitting in Leaps for quite a bit. Scientific Games. Yeah, she's been just floating higher throughout. Had a little bit of a pull. She looks like she's ready for, well, new highs are right there. So, but yeah, IGT, I think, is set up nicely. Some initial sweeper activity, breather. If we're fortunate enough for them to come back again, that would set up lovely here for a trip to new highs and beyond. SeaWorld, definitely interesting action in SeaWorld. We mentioned it last week and the week prior, I think, too, right? June's the primary focus there. They've been pretty aggressive in June calls in Shamu. And looking better, right? You know, SeaWorld is one of those names for me. If I see sweeper activity, I usually take it for a day trade no matter what. Sweepers. Because she always shows some momentum off it. And usually good for a quick swing. You know, if you're not looking for a home run, usually good for a quick pop. And again, had that here recently. They were buying it in this consolidation here. You got a quick pop on Thursday. But yeah, decent activity. June, the calls there. Dog with fleas, without a doubt. SeaWorld, you know, dog with fleas. But, you know, a lot of these dog with fleas, every dog has its day, Jim. Every dog has its day. So acting a little bit better here, some flow. You know, maybe people find, you know what it probably is, all kidding aside. And I'm just waiting to see something. I'm waiting to see some real sharp paper. Activists. This has got activists written all over it. So if we see one of those GBT guys or guys like that type of sweeper step into this thing, this is a perfect candidate for that. Perfect. There's something to watch out for. I don't know if you guys remember. You remember this MSI? That had a nice pop. I think it was an upgrade. That caught some sharp paper. Some looked like a Sharpie getting involved. Motorola Solutions. You remember we were talking about that? I think there were April calls in the money calls. That popped the highs Friday. BlackBerry, crazy flow off this here. And it's continued. So BlackBerry, yeah, ton of flow there. Ton of flow. Ton of flow in the BlackBerry. Brent is saying XLU. Yeah, there was a sweeper, XLU blood sweeper on Friday. Yeah, Brent, that's the key. There's two ways I would look at something like this. One, if you were eyeing this thing, thinking it's completely overdone to the downside, and you're looking for a trade, you can hop off that. That's your indication that there may be some sort of squeeze, rebound, whatever you want to label it. Otherwise, the more conservative way to play it, to create a stronger signal than what you're saying, you know, because it's not really that significant of an order in an ETF, is wait to see if they hit it. Because if they really want it, like if they're really making a play on a bounce here, you're going to see a lot more than that, Brent. That's one player possibly looking for a bounce, one player who may be short that doesn't necessarily want to cover his short, thinking that there may be a short-term bounce coming. So there's a couple of ways that sweeper can go. The stronger signal would be if they come and hit it again. And this is a candidate where if they want it, Brent, they're going to hit it aggressively. Aggressively. You won't miss it type thing. They'll pile them up and keep coming and keep coming. Now, again, I'm not saying that could happen here, but it's set up for that to happen if they want it. You know what I mean? So that would be the strongest signal that can come out of this. Well, again, worth keeping an eye on because Brent, I look at it as that order could be a heads up on what may be coming. You know what I mean? That's how I take that order. Not necessarily actionable unless you really like it, but just a heads up that sweepers may be coming for a squeeze. Ani's asking Roku, there was some April call activity. There was another decent looking sweep that we were unsure if it rolled. I forgot what month. Maybe that's what you're talking about on the Roku. I got to see more, a little more, Ani, unless you like the name here. You know what I mean? If you like the name here, you could take any sweeper as confirmation, as an indicator to what you see. But to trade off just flow itself, I got to see more. Reason being, there's been so much flow. You know what I mean? There's been so much flow throughout. And you just don't want to jump the gun on one order. Could be an existing player who owned it cheaper rolling. It could be a number of things. So we know sweepers like this name. We know it from back here when they were sweeping. They liked the name. So we know we could catch that type of activity. Personally, that's what I would wait for. Again, just trading off the flow. What else we got? Did I, YY blew up recently? Not sure. No, YY. I like that name too when it catches action. YY. Yeah, wow. Nah, this thing could catch some good looking sweepers too. Nothing noteworthy there, Tim. I wish. This thing's a rocket. This thing has treated us well in the past of sweeper activity. YY. Chinese name, right? Chinese name. Rustin brings up an interesting name here. THC. Okay, so here's where I want you to explain. I want to explain something with flow to you. Okay, how people can interpret flow in different fashion, and the stock going up or down doesn't mean you interpreted the action correctly. Okay, up or down is not, again, the answer whether you read the flow right is what I'm saying. Because here's a good example. And me too. Initially, THC looked like call buying to me. Okay. Those orders were on the ISE exchange. Okay. That's the exchange those orders took place. You can find out, you can check on the ISE exchange of whether if the orders open, whether they're opening buyers or sellers. That's the one exchange you can go to, and they get reported as such. THC, those were opening sellers. According to ISE data, they were sellers. Okay, so the stock went higher. Okay, the stock went higher. Dr. J on CNBC pumped it as a ton of buying coming in, right? So what happened was everybody who watches that show and plays options came in, bought the living shit out of it, and exploded higher. Prior to that, wasn't doing a thing. But those were sellers. They were writing calls. So you see what I mean? So yeah, in bull markets like this, you can get away with that stuff. But trust me, I've been in this game over 20 years now. In the long run, you don't find consistency when you don't do your homework. So, but this is a perfect example. If you have some screener or scan set, you think THC, woof, they're buying the living daylights out of it. Initially, I thought the same thing too. But they were writing calls and most likely writing it against stock. Okay. So nothing really I would take as bearish per se, but it wasn't extremely bullish. I'll tell you that much. I see a couple of you guys mentioning airlines. My goodness. Yeah, again, another group. But you see what I mean, guys? If we stare at the Microns of the world, okay, the Apples of the world, which everybody and their mother just continuously look at, okay, and I get it. Like NVIDIA has been, going higher, and Netflix has been an animal, and Amazon has been an animal, okay? But there's a whole universe of stocks out there that have been just breaking out, okay? Airlines, for example. His UAL was catching missiles throughout this. Missiles. And again, not a name you would want to own, right? But the wise guys out there wanted to own it. And granted, the whole airline complex caught action. But UAL in particular, I bring it up, right? I could bring any of them up. Some have exploded. All of them have exploded. But the UAL in particular was catching action that just stood out. And now look at it now. And same thing, looked like complete dog shit. But the flow looked different. Now everybody's eyes are on the airlines. Everybody. The flow in Delta exploded. So these things are, in my opinion, right now, you're in them. We got a couple guys in the room in UAL. They should pat themselves on the back. They really should. Wasn't the easiest thing to own, but they held their nose. Their signals, again, flow was exceptional. And they own UAL, and they're sitting in a nice profitable position. So now we need a breather here. I mean, I can't chase this. And maybe they go higher, but the sweet spot trade is over in these things for now. But again, just another example of, just paying attention to the flow rather than staring at the same names over and over and over again. You just miss so many opportunities. FCAU, I see Jim mentioned. What an animal. What an animal. They were buying this thing. We spoke about this, I think, 2 webinars ago now. They were buying it like they had tomorrow's newspaper. The flow in Chrysler, guys. Chrysler. Ridiculous. Sweeper after sweeper after sweeper after sweeper after sweeper. You can't ignore that action. You cannot ignore that action. Look at this move. When you see that type of action, you cannot ignore it. I don't care what they do. I don't care what they do. And that's why, a name like a biotech that's well known could catch a block. Okay. Like example, CLVS, okay, could catch a big block. And, traders would just, are doing cartwheels over it because they know the name. And then the name like Agio, that I guess nobody is familiar with, maybe, I don't know, can catch the best looking sweep that we've seen. Think about it. Biotech has been one of the best areas flow-wise. We've been talking about that for a while. And the Agio sweeper was one of the best that we've seen overall. And, and a sweep, nevertheless, and nobody's interested. And you see the difference, though. You see the difference. There's a special type of action out there that, again, it's just telling us it's sharp paper. That's what it is. Somebody was asking me what sharp paper is. Sharp, I get the term sharp. I come from a gambling background. Okay, so I don't know if you heard the term sharps in Vegas. That's obviously like the smart money, professional gamblers. Okay, people who make a living at a gambling. So that's pretty much how I apply it to the market and to options flow. So sharp, in simple English, the definition is a clean cut directional bet. That's what sharp is. Crystal clear. Right? I'm not, oh, is it tied to stock? Are they replacing? Is it a hedge into earnings? Is it a roll? Could they be doing this? That's not sharp. Sharp is, wow, I got to own this thing before it goes. That's sharp. Okay. William was talking about NKTR. You know, I mean, again, I don't know if you guys are familiar with these names. Like, this is a little ridiculous now. But look at this thing. And listen, I'm not the one who's going to say it. This is a bull market. Okay. And I see it. It's kind of nauseating already on Twitter. We're all making money. All right. Unless you're trying to be a wise guy, shorting the S&P or whatever the case, everybody's making money on the long side. But like what I know is from my experience, when it comes to flow, sticking with the stuff, in other words, the aggressive sweeper activity, will work even when we're not in raging bull markets. In raging bull markets, you'll get this, though. This is what happens in raging bull markets. You know what I mean? This is what you get. You're not going to get this, well, rarely, unless you get some news. You're more than likely not going to see this as often when markets are consolidating. But, you know, when there's aggressive activity for a reason. I use the analogy, if I was, Jim, let's say we go to a bull game, okay, and you're sitting next to somebody who really knows their shit, and they whisper in your ear, listen, Jim, Monday when the market's open, you just buy NKTR. Okay, you don't need him to tell you anything more, right? He just told you the symbol. You're lucky you were fortunate enough for him to tell you it. If you had the tools that these professionals have, what are you going to do? Are you going to open up some sort of call spread? Are you going to sit on the bid and bid for a block? Are you going to negotiate a price on a block? Or if you have access to these tools, are you going to sweep the living shit out of multiple exchanges and take out every offer you can? And then when you're done doing that and the stock hasn't exploded yet, you feel like you still haven't owned enough. So you go back and try to buy more. And then you try to find more money to buy more. And you know, that's FCAU. Right? That's what they were doing in this thing, weren't they? But, you know, you don't always get that. Sometimes you just get an order or two with that type of behavior behind it. So that's the rationale, so you guys understand of what I'm looking for and why I focus on only the type of activity I focus on. Not that I can't make money here and there playing the other stuff. Yeah, I could. But I know my bread and butter, and from my experience, the consistency is going to come out of that type of activity. And it makes sense, right? Right? I'm not telling you I'm some great stock picker out there. I'll be the first to tell you I don't know shit. If I was picking these things, forget it. I've given up trying to pick my own stocks a long, long time ago. I started trading professionally, managing money professionally, 97, 98. 1997, 98. So I've tried and done it all and spun my wheels many a times. Stock picking, you know, again, you see people on social media now, they're patting themselves on the back. Did I tell you this? Did I tell you that? They're all gurus because they're bullish guys in a bull market. That's all they are. As soon as they turn bearish, watch how quick their magic fades. You know, so I'm just showing you guys, again, this is not me picking stocks, breaking down fundamentals. I'm not looking at charts like everybody else and saying I got something special. I'm being honest with you and telling you guys what I look at day to day and why I've found success trading off this stuff. There's logic behind it. You know, it's not some magic crystal ball formula. These are markets. Stocks go higher when there's more buyers than sellers. That's how the game works. Jim is saying you get a guy like Stephen Cohen, David Tepper, you think he's speculating that way. Right. Those are the guys, you know what I mean? Those are the guys who know what that's the smart money out there when we talk about it. You know what I mean? We don't have access to this guy. Well, can't speak for everyone, but the majority, we don't have access to what they have access to. We don't have access to these guys. So this is the closest we're going to come to having an idea of what they're buying. In my opinion, these are the guys who are forming, who are drawing up the charts you guys are looking at. When you see a breakout, those are the guys creating that breakout. Let's get to a couple more names here, and then any questions you guys have. Sandy saying, how to best get a hedge while it's cheap? That's an interesting question, Sandy, because it's difficult to apply just one way to everybody. Like, you could get really scientific about it in the option market. That's the beauty of the option market. Like, there's literally ways you can figure out your long exposure and hedge exactly the amount you want to hedge. Okay, but for the majority of you guys, of us, it's a little too complicated. Okay, so you just got to basically take a step back, look at what you're long, okay, and just figure out, okay, if I get caught in a drawdown here, how much is this going to sting? People don't like to look at that stuff when the market is raging like it is. They don't like to think of that stuff. But now is the time to think of that stuff. Because like you said, hedging is cheap. Protecting is cheap right now. So this is when you want to start looking at that if you need to. Not when it's too late. Okay? So the simple way, you could just protect against a major drawdown if that's what you're concerned about. You know what I mean? So you can use the volatility products and make a play on that. And again, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying play the long side on it. You want those calls to expire worthless. That's your objective. But you're protected against the majority of people I know, Sandy, the majority of people, they're not worried about a little pullback. They're not concerned about that. They're concerned about some big flash crash type event. That's what the majority of professional traders that I talk to are concerned about. That's their fear. You know, some event creates a flash crash. Right. So I think if you're looking to protect off that, there's several ways you can do it. Like I said, the volatility products, SPY puts, any one of those avenues. All right. But again, the key is you don't want to look to profit off that. A lot of people overdo it on it because they say, oh, if there's a black swan event, at least I'll make money because I have these puts. That's not what you're trying to do here. You're trying to soften the blow. You're going to lose money. That's okay. You don't want it to sting as much. You know? So there's a million different things you could do with that. Again, I don't know how long you are and so on. We got a lot of guys in the room. One guy, Ranchero, who really knows his shit when it comes to that stuff. Really knows his stuff. Like, everybody's been hitting him up with questions. He looks at the Greeks. He looks at all that stuff. And basically you figure out how long you are, what you want to hedge, and you can decide what the hell you want to put on. But the simple way is just put on some protection. You know, SPY puts is probably the easiest way to go. The easiest way to go. And this way you don't have to worry about getting blasted if something big does occur. You always got to worry about that stuff, even more so when the market goes up like it is now. Because there's a lot of people coming out of the door at once if something like that happens. All right. You don't, excuse my French, shit your pants over it. You prepare for it. Losing money's fine. You're supposed to lose money when the music stops. You're supposed to lose money here. You're supposed to give back some profits. That's okay. Yeah, you got SPY puts, SPX puts, Q puts. There's a million different things, guys. A million different things. A million different things. I mean, are we overboard? Listen, are we overboard? What's that even mean? Too much buying? What's overbought mean? I don't know what overbought means. You know what I mean? I don't know what overbought means. RSI, I don't look at that stuff. I don't look at that stuff. This is a different market, guys. This is a whole different game. This is not the game you may be used to playing years ago. It's a whole different game. I just think logically, when you see something in all-out bull mode like it is, you have to always consider the downside, always. Because, if there is some sort of news or event and there's some drawdown, it would be totally normal when a market looks like this. Okay? It may not come for another 3 months. But that's why you plan ahead of time and be ready for it. And at the same time, your setup's there, flow is there, you like it, fire. You don't want to put on a full position, you feel more comfortable with less, that's totally okay. That's totally okay. So at the same time, as we continue to go higher, as there's still bullish flow, aggressive flow behind some good-looking names, you continue to make money. But if you get caught, like I said, you're only giving back some profits and not getting knocked out of the box. What happens is, Sandy, so you understand, the name of the game here is not to get caught in a drawdown and give back everything you've made. If you're that long, you need some protection, without a doubt. You need a good amount of protection if you're that long. Now, if you're new to the market and you're just starting to get in now, what can I tell you? I mean, what do you want me to tell you? But most of us here have been trading for at least a couple of years, have made some decent money in this bull market. You want to keep a good amount of it. That's all. You're not looking to keep all of it. It's impossible. Because if you go to the sidelines, you may miss more upside. And you don't want to do that. So Dean is saying, how do I avoid getting stopped out of positions during down days while there's a lot more upside potential? Dean, that's probably your entry is probably the issue there. And that comes again with the problem of possibly buying overextended names and stuff like that. What I would suggest, if it's a recurring problem, size down. You're too tight on your stops. If you're getting stopped out and it's a recurring problem, okay, it's happening too much, more than you would like, size down, stay looser. You know what I mean? So let's say you're buying 5,000 shares of stock and you're getting stopped out. Take that down to 3,000 shares and loosen that stop. You got to give yourself a decent amount of wiggle room, especially if you're buying strength, especially if you're chasing strength. Okay, but listen, it's good that you're paying attention to the stops, because that means when the music stops, you won't be holding the bag. Okay, you need to do that. But if you're getting stopped out a little too much, you're too tight. And that means you're too nervous. And that means you're playing a little bit above your head. You're not comfortable. All right. Options right now for swinging positions, I think is perfect in this market. I'm an equities guy, and I'm telling you right now, options are perfect. Why? Let's say you like, I don't know, take IGT, okay? And you're playing for the break here. And you go out 3 months, you're looking for, let's say, north of 30, 35, or whatever it is. What's your best stop here? Put in what you're willing to lose. Put in what you're willing to lose in those calls. You don't have to stress out about stopping yourself out. Right? A down day, you don't have to worry about getting shaken out of something. So you buy March, let's say you buy March calls here. My stop loss is the premium I put in. Obviously, I'm not going to make as much money as if I sized up with a stop loss, but think about the stress alleviated out of that trade. And there are so many different names that would have helped with in this market. GBT, one of the examples, even though it never really, if you bought it at the right spot, never really threatened that. But if you said, I'm going to buy those March calls, right? They tattooed March. I'm going into March calls and I'm willing to lose what I put in. Where's the stress? You're not stressed here. You're not getting stopped here. So if you're a position trader, swing trader, that's basically your stop loss. And it allows you to stay lighter. That allows you maybe to spread out, play different sectors, different names. And I think that has its value in this market right now. Because like whoever asked that question, it's a good question. The stops, if you're buying a name like Boeing, up here, where are you putting a stop loss? This thing could, come down to 330 on Tuesday and still look great. So, me personally, if you're an options trader and you're a swing trader, I would go that route. Brent saying I got shook out of that damn GBT. See what I mean? You see? Oh, you had a bad entry on it? Yeah. But, even Brent, and that's, I know how you play. You're a little more savvy than a lot of other people, but with the bad entry things, you don't want to really size up anyway. So if you're playing options, I think that's a good approach for you, even Brent. So if you want to buy GBT, you're late, but you want to get in because the action, even though you're chasing, buy some March calls, put in what you're willing to risk. Because if you're playing the GBT, you're playing a name like that and you're chasing, you're looking for the big one. No, there's so many other stocks you can trade for a quick move. So if you're playing a name like this, you're worried you're going to miss out on the big thing because of all that action that came in. So you buy some March calls, then this happens, you're like, all right, they'll probably go to zero. And then lo and behold, you're back in the game. Again, you're not going to get rich off that philosophy. Well, I shouldn't say that, because you catch a monster, you can make a good amount of change. You're not going to make as much money as if you would size normally with a stop. But guys, I'm telling you right now, the emotion, the stress, all that comes out of the equation. And boy, will you think a lot clearly. A lot more clear, you'll think. All right, did I miss anybody else's questions here? I apologize if I do. If I did, I see like CHRW, that's another tranny name, ton of action, on fire. Here's a tranny name that really I'm pissed off about, okay? I didn't own it. A couple of guys in the room did. and they lost money. This guy was a little too early on those calls. A week too early, man. This rider was going to be a monster. You know, and that's why there's no guarantees in this game. They're losers. They're losers. You know, sold puts, bought those Decembers. He rolled out some of them to Jans, but it was December initially. And then got caught in, he put it on here, got caught in this. So he had to make that up. If he had a little more time, he would have caught a rocket. But these trannies have been. How about UNP? You guys remember the action we were looking at in UNP? You remember the size sweeper activity in this UNP? Yeah, Brent, the rider, he was honestly, it was a week too early. He got caught in one more leg of that transportation sell-off. But you saw they hit other ones that they cashed in on. JB Hunt, that's at highs, that's CHRW, XPO. Look at these things, man. Look at these things. And that's where flow can be a huge asset, guys. If you're keying in on just a group of names, that's fine, but you're not going to get that special activity every day, every week, every month. Right? Like Amazon. We had Bazooka Joe down here. What about that entry, huh? Yeah, Bazooka Joe down here. And then Amazon, the only other noteworthy sweeper was that recent one when these things started to take off. This one. Hold on. You know, so you got to wait around for those. If you play just a group of names, you got to wait around and be patient for that type of action. They don't come around all the time. But if you're able to play all these names, look how many. Look how many. You're not going to own all of them, but look how many. This is the guy here. Post Bazooka. This is Bazooka Joe. Where's the other guy? What's wrong with this Twitter search today? You got to be kidding me. Oh, is this guy? That's not it. There's a lot of guys. Look at this guy. Feb 1700s. Small sweep, though. Lotto sweep. Feb 1700s. There's some crazy lottos out there. Crazy. This is what the print looked like. 565, Feb 1700s. Jim, they were March? Yeah, maybe they were March. But anyway, that's the point I'm trying to make. You know, there's a universe, CSX, another one. What about what they did with the CSX? Ready? Pullback. They started buying here. Explosion. CEO dies. They sweep the shit out of that. Highs. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. There are so many names. Autos, auto supplies. Yeah, Jim, he was Google and Amazon and TQQQ, I think he played. Those three. That was right here on this day. Right there. Amazon, Google. Those were the only two of the big high beta names, FANG names, that caught good-looking sweepers, special sweepers. Amazon and Google. And then Google, without the L, caught a monster block, right? Wasn't that like a $3 million block or something in Goog without the L? Yeah. But you see the spots they come in at, man. They come in at perfect spots. Like Amazon, there were two, right? We're talking about two. One, the last one, and two. That was Bazooka Joe back here. So, you know, they come in, again, where they come in, that's what I find the most fascinating, the spots. You know, GBT, they didn't come in up at the highs here, right before the break, right here. Like, look at that. Down, long, dead base. Like, how do you know when it's coming out of this base? Me, I'm buying every high here on my own. Oh, it's going to break out. Oh, it's going to break out. Oh, no. Oh, it's going to break out. Oh, no. Where do they come in? Right there. Then, boop, you get the cushion. So now consolidation never threatens your buy point ever, and explosion. That's what makes them special. You know, the other action that comes in, they come in all over the place. But the good-looking guys, they usually find the right spot. Yeah, Boeing, I don't know what that's about. They bought Boeing right on this day, right? Look at this. And look what it's up since then, Jim. Look what it's up since then. I thought this guy was drunk buying it on this day. Amazing. Anyway, it's a fun market out there. Be smart. If you're overextended, put on some protection. Don't worry about a loser. It's totally normal when this comes to an end. But there's still good-looking action out there. We got earnings, so you want to be smart about that. You know, you can look to take advantage of maybe a run-up prior and then maybe leave a piece. Maybe make some money, leave a piece that the profits paid for through. Maybe you could catch the kaboom. You know, that's what I didn't get a chance to get into here. A lot of tech names, okay, are set up where they're under-owned going into this quarter. And what I mean by that is we had that last pull in tech, okay, where they sold off a lot of these names that going into this quarter now, if they happen to knock the ball out of the park, you're going to get that chase again, that under-owned chase, where they have to own these things. So that may play out prior to the number coming out. You know what I mean? You may see that flow start to come out pre-earnings. You get that little run-up, and then you can leave a piece through, and if you get lucky, they kill it. That's when you can get some really crazy overreactions to the upside. Now, again, I'm not trying to predict earnings. Trust me, I'm the last person who's going to try to do that. But as opposed to these names going into the quarter up here, where the risk reward is awful. You follow? You know, after a move like this, you go into the quarter up here, you got to knock the ball out of the park to not get killed. Now it's different on some of these tech names. Thank you, Dean. Thank you for the kind words. Listen, a good place to start, brother. It's a good place to start. Get a feel for things, make some money, and then whatchamacallit? You know, you play it by ear. But it's a good place to start. And just so I mention this, I never get a chance to mention it because we talk about the market. Any questions on the flow, guys? I know it's a broken record for you guys who have been here week in, week out. Anybody who's new, go to wallstreetjesus.com, strategy section. You can learn a lot about what I do. Easy to read blogs, trust me, not that complicated coming from me. Just explaining, you know, sweeps, how I use it, gauging sentiment, looking for big moves, all that sort of stuff. All right. Also, what we offer, a couple things throughout the sweep series. The premium package is the whole enchilada, access to the room, everything we have, private Twitter. This is the room. So basically, you got a couple channels here. You talk to traders who are trading off the flow every day. You can filter out the noise. This is just me and the action. The board, heat map telling you where all the action's going. The search function. But the most important thing, I don't mean this in an arrogant way, but if you're looking to learn about the flow and stuff like that, I broadcast throughout the whole day. So, you know, talking play-by-play as the flow come in, what I'm trading, what looks good, what's worthy of a swing, what's tied to stock, what may be a hedge, all that jazz. Okay? So that's the main benefit to this room if you're looking to develop a strategy and learn how to interpret sweeper activity and stuff like that. We also have spun off private Twitter into its own entity. So if you're looking for a cheaper route, a more affordable route to get a feel for just the flow, we offer this. Go to the products right there, private Twitter feed. You put in your handle, $59.99 a month. You will get access to this here. Okay, so this is all the flow, recap on the action, top sweepers, all that stuff, open interest, all the real flow in real time. The main ingredient that you're missing, the difference is you're not talking about the flow with other traders and how they're trading off it, and the play-by-play broadcast. Okay, but that's why it's a lot lower in price. So if you're looking for a cheaper route to just get a feel for the action, that's an option. Okay. You can hit me up anytime you have any questions. You guys know where to find me. I appreciate you guys coming out as always. APC, Comcast, Eric, always you throw it in at the end here. I like that. Comcast looks amazing. APC has seen some flow and has been hot. But yeah, like I said, I appreciate everybody coming out. Enjoy the long weekend. Casino closed Monday, unfortunately. So we're back at it Tuesday. But enjoy the long weekend. Should be a lot of fun again next week. All right. Have a great weekend, everybody.